She broke records, won Grand Slams, and brought pride to the entire country. However, on the worst night of her professional life, her coach did not make the initial contact. Her family wasn't there. It was the spouse of the world's finest clay court champion. Exposing a phone call that no one knew had taken place around midnight, breaking an unexpected silence when the person who most needed it was Alex Eala. Maria Perelló, who supported Rafael Nadal during his 2 retirements and 22 Grand Slam victories, does not openly discuss tennis or her husband's protégés despite having 2 sons and 19 years of loyalty. Not about what takes place in Manacor, Spain, behind the academy walls. Up until now, the tennis was rocked by what she disclosed. World. Rafa's actions at midnight will permanently alter your perception of him. Imagine a 12-year-old girl who is boarding an aircraft in Manila, Philippines, leaving behind her comforts from childhood, her streets, her language, and everything she knew to pursue something that the majority of people in her nation had never even considered pursuing. Not basketball, not football, tennis. In 2018, Alex Eala joined the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca. A 13-year-old with big eyes, a backhand that subtly threatened conflict, and a forehand that hinted at potential grandeur. She had grown up observing athletes who didn't resemble her rule the sport she loved. In the world of professional tennis, there were no Filipino role models. Not one. Not a single person to contact and ask, "How did you do it?" She was smart, but she lived in a sporty Hoover. Solitary and totally self-driven. However, the academy didn't give a damn about your origins. It was interested in how hard you worked. Additionally, Manacor's employees knew right away that they had something exceptional. Not merely a gifted junior, but a competitor who reminded the coaches of a certain person due to their extraordinary emotional control. Someone who had received training on such courts. Someone whose name appeared on the structure. The Australian Open Junior was won by her. The Philippines won the doubles championship at the age of 14, followed by the Roland Garros Junior doubles. The United States collectively held its breath. 2022 Open Junior Singles title. The first Filipina in history of the competition. At the age of 17, she had already accomplished what previous generations of players had the country has never achieved. Rafael Nadal, who was still participating at the time, observed from a distance. Battling time, injuries, and the harsh maths of a career that is winding down to its conclusion. However, he saw. Joan Bosch, her coach, was the one who noticed the most among his academy personnel. This young lady wasn't just she was gifted and made to withstand pressure. However, the professional tour was a very different animal. Eala participated in the US Open, Wimbledon, and Roland Garros qualifying rounds in 2023 and 2024. She lost in the first qualifying round each time. Not the first qualifying match, not the second round, not the main draw bracket before to the start of the actual competition. 3 Grand Slam qualifying exits in a row. Although her contemporary, Eala had defeated the same player, Mira Andreeva, 6-4, 6-0 in the 2022 U.S. Eala observed the Open Junior quarterfinals from outside the glass, with nothing but promise and suffering, is ranked 140th in the world. Those losses didn't only hurt, they piled up. They piled up. The most harmful question an athlete can hear in their own thoughts was whispered by them. What if I'm inadequate? What no one knew, what even those closest to her career failed to completely understand, was that the most difficult night was yet to come. And it would be accompanied by darkness, quiet, and a phone screen that illuminates at midnight. But first, you must comprehend the woman who enabled the call. Maria Francisca Perelló. The world refers to her as Mary. The tennis community hardly knows her name, and that's totally deliberate. At the age of 17, she got to know Rafael Nadal in their hometown through his sister. The academy is located in the sun-drenched village of Manacor in Mallorca. She observed him make his first French Open. She saw him cry at the Australian Open and witnessed him win Wimbledon. She observed his defeat. Return, lose once more, and come back as though losing was just a diversion. She stood next to the greatest for 19 years. Competitor the sport has ever produced, and she hardly discussed any of it in public. As other tennis partners became into celebrities in their own right, establishing social presences, giving interviews, starting brands, Mary took the other route. She studied business management at the University of the Balearic Islands. She finished her graduate studies at Barcelona's ESAID. She oversaw the non-profit division of the Foundation of Rafael Nadal. Rafa Jr., her first kid, was born in October 2022, and she nurtured him mostly in private. She also received her second son, Miguel, in August 2025. Miguel was named for her late father, who died in April 2023. Only a few days after the birth did the world learn about it. This woman protects her privacy like a stronghold, who has witnessed her husband bear the burden of being the best and who recognizes that silence is a source of power around the world for 20 years, and I gained a profound understanding of what it takes for a person to bear that burden alone. Therefore, even though Mary Perello's public remarks about Alex Eala were cautious and indirect, the tennis world came to a complete halt. Mary doesn't talk about players. She doesn't get involved in stories about tennis. She doesn't discuss the young athletes who trained, her husband's former pupils, or his protégés, inside their walls, unless she was stirred to such an extent that she was unable to remain silent. In an uncommon and unguarded moment from a foundation ceremony in Mallorca, photographed by a Spanish journalist and posted on social media in a matter of hours, Mary was questioned on the most renowned alumnus of Rafa Nadal's program, Alex Eala's remarkable the significance of the 2025 season for the Academy family. She hesitated. Not the moment when someone is calculating a tactful response, the moment when someone is debating whether or not to reveal something genuine. In a way, Rafa is concerned about her. That's not just tennis, she remarked. He senses her sufferings. He was unable to sleep following her greatest loss. He gave her a call. I was present. I heard what was being said. There was silence in the room. That call had gone unnoticed. Not Alex's squad, not the media in the Philippines, not the supporters who had kept track of every game and rating, each historic first. Rafa Nadal called at midnight following her heaviest defeat. What was that loss, then? And why did he break even? To comprehend why every barrier Eala had built around herself was destroyed by that midnight call, you must comprehend her feelings and the significance of the 2025 Eastbourne Open Final. When Eala got to Eastbourne, her season had already changed the course of Philippine sports history. The Miami Open semifinal run, a 140th ranked wildcard entry, had created one of the most amazing scenes that women's tennis had seen in a long time. Yelena Ostapenko was eliminated by her. She defeated Australian Open winner Madison Keys 6-4, 6-2. She then defeated Iga Swiatek, the previous world number 1, in a performance that rocked the sport. 6-2, 7-5, breaking her serve 8 times in 2 sets. Rafa's uncle and longtime coach, Tony Nadal, the creator of his competitive mindset, had come to Miami just to watch. As Eala left that court, she had lost her potential as a junior product. She was powerful. However, unrestrained forces have the potential to go too far. Additionally, Eala carried more than just confidence by the time the grass court season began. She had expectations, the burden of being included in every article, every broadcast segment, a country's expectations, a sports curiosity, as the future of women's tennis in every social media caption. Against a seasoned top 10 opponent, the Eastbourne final turned into a masterclass on how even the calmest competitors may be suffocated by expectations. Eala almost lost the first set, then the second, and finally the match. The runner-up result, which was unquestionably a historic accomplishment for any after the game, the Filipina player felt like something far worse than a defeat in the locker room. It had the sound of a door slamming, closed on a moment that would define the season and never happen again. She was just 2 sets away from winning her maiden European WTA championship. Grass. Miami was just 2 sets away from demonstrating that it was a plan rather than a miracle. Witnesses at the location described showed incredible poise during the post-match handshake. She complimented her opponent and grinned. She responded to queries from the media with the calm certainty of a person twice her age. However, others who knew her, genuinely knew her, understood the unique silence that comes upon a rival who has gone somewhere extremely quiet. Within themselves. The Philippine journalist congratulated her when she got back to her hotel room. The Academy posted an encouraging message, her coach examined the tactical mistakes, and the ranking points continued to rise. None of it affected the weight she was carrying as she moved toward the top 50. An hour after midnight in her phone screen flashed up in Eastbourne, England. Number in Spanish. When she was a wide-eyed adolescent, she had first heard of this moniker while chasing someone pleading for a picture at the airport in Madrid. Rafa was there. Not a voice message, not a message, a phone call. Additionally, Mary, who was standing next to him, claimed that he had been watching match replays for hours. He couldn't settle till he just took up the phone and dialed. Why did Mary cry after hearing what he said? Not every word that was said during that call was disclosed by Mary Perello. She's not like that, and that exchange was never intended for consumption by the general population. However, the information she provided, albeit in bits and pieces, presented a picture that the tennis the world has been attempting to properly digest for weeks. He told her what no one else was. Mary remarked. Everyone was stating, "You did great. The runner-up is outstanding. You ought to be proud." Rafa made a different statement. According to Mary's story, it was acknowledgement rather than solace or comfort. He informed Eala that the suffering she had was evidence, not a sign of weakness. Evidence that her desire was strong enough to cause pain. Evidence that she was pleased with the attendance ribbon after inadvertently walking into a WTA final. He informed her that, and this is the piece that, once Mary brought it up, went viral on tennis social media. Claimed he was unable to eat the night following his first defeat at the French Open. For 3 hours, he sat in his hotel room and gazed at the wall. He claimed that this suffering laid the groundwork for everything that followed. Mary, seated next to him throughout the call, acknowledged that she started crying. Not out of melancholy, but out of acknowledgement. Since she had seen that version of Rafa, the one who transformed destruction into devastation and sat with suffering rather than fleeing it into the field of architecture. She said, "I realized that he was giving her the one thing that had made him who he was. He was offering himself to him." When tidbits of the story started to spread, the Philippine media exploded. Within a single news cycle, fan accounts devoted to Alex shared the phrase in 37 different languages. The hashtag Rafael Nadal became popular in Spain and the Philippines within 48 hours, and surprisingly, Japan. After years of covering women's tennis, commentators argued whether this was inappropriate, mentorship opportunities, or one of the year's most exquisite athletic moments. But in the middle of the commotion, there was one thing that always stood out. When questioned about the evening in Eastbourne in a later news conference, halted with that same old poise. "Someone reminded me why I play," she continued. She never said his name, and I doubt I'll ever forget it. She was not required to. Because everyone knew she was speaking by that point. Concerning Rafael Nadal. Not only has the Manicure Academy improved Alex Eala's footwork and timing, possibly a route to the professional circuit. It provided her with something much more uncommon, something without a rating system or coaching manuals are measurable. Viewpoint. The way of life of a champion who had been on the same brink despite uncertainty, pressure, and expectations. They made the decision to move forward. Abruptly, the question around Eala shifted. It had nothing to do with whether she could succeed at the top level. It became, how far can she go with that mindset? The response was practically instantaneous. The stage moved to the U.S. Open 3 months after Eastbourne.